Oh no, Chris, I unmuted you too fast. You're already laughing. Hi, my name is Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. And sorry, I unmuted us a little too early there. I trusted our ability to stay silent for 10 seconds, and it didn't happen. Welcome to Avatar: The Last Podcasters. We have a very exciting. I love doing these episodes, Chris. I love anytime where it is anytime we get into these top list territories where you can incite lots of opinion and tension and rage from listeners. That's my favorite. Welcome, though, Chris. Anything you want to say before we get started?
I was just laughing at last week's trivia question that I put up on the page. The trivia question, which Sean, I already went over with you, was or is when did Azula first appear? When did Azula first appear in the TV show? And it's multiple choice. The choices are either uh, A, season 2, episode 1, The Avatar State. B, season 1, episode 12, The Storm. C, season 1, episode 1, The Boy in the Iceberg. Or D, season 1, episode 20, The Siege of the North. And one person wrote, so the correct answer is C, season 1, episode 1, The Boy in the Iceberg, because she is the firebender in the opening sequence.
I hate that question and I hate that answer. I was siding
So
with the audience.
the person the person just commented 23 minutes ago. That's kind of cheating. That's what I'm laughing about. It's funny because most of my questions, people like 65 to 80% get it right, and so far 20% said. I love this question. 20% said A, the Avatar State. 40% said the Storm. 13% said the Boy in the Iceberg, and 27% said the Siege of the North.
If it's part that Netflix would skip, it's not real content, Chris. That doesn't count. No post-credit scenes, no intros. Get that junk out of here.
The intro's one of the best intros.
It is
ever.
It's maybe
it's part
no,
of the.
Not maybe.
Also,
it's literally my favorite intro in any TV show ever. But you skip the intro.
It's not mine.
The intro.
Dang, we're right.
No, that's a great topic. Actually, I have to do that someday. Favorite intros for TV shows. But Chris, it doesn't canonically add any content to the show.
The intro.
The intro.
It does.
Not the picture, just the narration.
The picture. Okay,
it's not actual content. She's not actually doing that.
I thought that's
as part of listen. No, I'm not accepting the background animations as canon content during the intro.
It's not. It's not background. She is like there when they say fire. It's her kicking it up and stuff.
I'm not biting. I'm siding with the audience. That's lame. It's lame. Listen, I'm actually writing that. I think that's a great idea. We got to do top intros to TV shows. I'm going to write it down in our ideas list. That's nice. Great.
I looked through the idea list or whatever I was trying to figure out what we were going to talk about this week. I was like, I forget how long this is. Like, I just kept going because I just add random things to it all the time. But okay, but this week's episode.
That's my favorite part about Keep Notes. Is like you don't really get. I mean, you can see how long it is, but you just kind of get lost in the scrolling, and you just keep adding things to it. That's great. Yeah, let's get to this episode, Chris. Talk to me.
This week's episode is the definitive list of the top 20 benders of the Avatar universe, of all the elements together, and even non-bending elements. We've done the list for each of the elements previously, and this is just the culmination of the top 20. So, first of all, let me preface by saying that this list will make people mad, and I know it will make people mad because I made the list and I'm mad at the list. That's how much I know.
If it doesn't make you feel things, then you need to watch.
That's okay.
It no, it should make you feel. Chris, this should move you.
Yeah.
I will.
Um,
I'll add some
keep
context.
going.
I saying for avatars, we were limiting the judgment of ability to their actual element, to their primary element, not all four of their elements or avatar state.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
also, not that Chris approved this or anything, but at least when I looked at it, I was thinking of not necessarily violence or combat specific, but just mastery of the
Absolutely.
element.
Yeah. So don't look at this list of like, oh, well, number one can beat everyone else on the list. I mean, number one could beat everyone, but don't look at it as like, oh, well, number
Coincidence, yeah, coincidence.
9 could beat 10 and below. Like that's not necessarily how it goes. Like mastering of an element is more than just the physical powerfulness of the element. It's like how do you use it? How did you advance the element? How did you master this skill? Even the essence of the element, things like that.
And this is a really long list.
It is, but we'll start at number 20. Even though, so when I was making the list, I just copy and pasted like the top 7 or 8 from each one, and because I already had a ranking from each one, and then I just kind of slowly moved them around, and then got to my top 20 list, and I shared that with Shawn, and then me and Shawn discussed a lot of changes to it. I mean, not a lot, but a few changes to it,
Yeah.
which I love. I love doing that. I love going back and forth because then, like, I think about things I didn't think about before. But anywho,
Number 20 is an
oh,
interesting one to start off with, Chris.
yeah, it is.
Oh, you go. Well, no, I'll do the evens. You do the odds. Number
Okay.
20. You put number one Nonbender, Suki.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We'll also say where they rank within their own element. But yeah. Number 20, who's number one in the non-bending, if that tells you a lot, is Suki. Suki's freaking amazing. She has pretty much, I feel like, mastered every aspect of non-bending except technology. She is a great chi blocker, great enough to have mastered it to teach other people. She is a really great hand-to-hand fighter. Swords, she's really good with swords. Projectiles, I've seen her use a few. She uses her sword as projectile, or even her fans. Her fence, great defensive things there. Her agility, probably the most agile person. So, really, really great
Yeah.
bender.
I mean, my
I
only
mean,
qualm with
as a
that is that
non-bender.
the list is literally called top 20 benders, and she's not one. So, not that I have a place with her being on a top 20 awesomest people at their craft, but that's not as catchy of a title. Uh, but hey, you can't have this list without talking about. You can't have any good Avatar list without talking about Suki.
Hmm. So that brings us to number 19, King Boomy, who was number 5, the fifth best Earthbender. What's it about Boomy? Like we all know, he's like, freaking strong. He's one of the few benders who can do like telekinetic bending, which didn't factor like too much into our rankings before, but still something to point out.
Yeah, I think that's fine for him. I think he needs to be on the list, but he doesn't have the same kind of inventive creativity of his competition ahead.
Yeah, once I saw some of the competition had, I was like, yeah, okay, he's ranked, rightfully so.
I think so. Number 18, we've got the fifth ranked Airbender, and that is Tenzin. And I always have like an extra level of respect for Tenzin. He's being taught by Aang. I get that you're being taught by the Avatar, but you're not. You know, like when somebody talks about learning a new language and going and being immersed, right? He doesn't. There's no opportunity from that, and I think we've all gotten sick of trying to have our dads, or parental figures or father figures. Like if you try to learn from that one person every single day, at some point you're gonna hate that.
Mm.
So just like a small extra modicum of respect for Tenzin's airbending prowess, given the circumstances in which he was trained.
Yeah, that's a good point. Same teacher, whole life, because there can only be one teacher.
Yeah,
Like you don't get any type of, uh, you diverse teachings or
yeah.
anything.
One, and so the fact that he, for example, is using airbending as kind of an offensive, right? That had some of that had to sort of start in his own brain, his own creative influence. on
Yeah.
airbending.
So it's a great bender. Number 17. Oh man, it's funny considering our last video, one of our last videos of who could defeat most likely to defeat Amon. Number 17 is Pali, who is
She's the
the
perfect
fifth.
Amon candidate, man.
Yeah. But when it comes to being the best bender, she's ranked all the way down to 17. She was the fifth best firebender. Pali, the absolute best combustion bender, and she's also a freaking great firebender who could block direct dragon fire attack.
I think our explanation was like a, not quite a one trick pony, but her one trick that you see most importantly or most prominently is really cool and absolutely
Yeah.
the best version of that trick. Number 16, I've got our fourth ranked Earthbender, and that's Kuvira. Seems like a great place. Certainly the most, I'm going to say at least the most precise metal bender, right? She's doing things with
So.
a tact and accuracy with metal bending that doesn't even seem innate to the element itself, right? It seems, I don't know, it seems like taking a square peg in a round hole, and she does it seamlessly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, Kuvira is like probably one of the most fierce benders, and yeah, you make a really great point about the way she uses metal bending. Like she uses it like way like a new element, all of and of itself. Like not that many people use metal bending the way she does.
It feels like it, yeah. I mean, there again, most of that had to kind of be crafted. You see influences just in other metal benders in her loved ones, but nothing to the degree that she has sort of crafted on her own.
Yeah. All right. Number 15. Again, guys, this list was hard to make. Number 15 is Azula, who's the fourth best firebender. I
She'd
freaking
be
love
higher if her
Azula.
mother loved her. A little throwback to the last episode. Sorry, just kidding.
Or if
Iroh
Iroh
had loved her,
took her under the wing, it would be.
she'd be higher. Yep. It's your fault, Iroh.
I'm kind of mad that I now have like a whole new like thing to make put Iroh down to peg. Iroh's a terrible uncle.
It's a horror.
He'll be like, well, the thing is, I'm not a. It's not that he's a terrible uncle. It's that he clearly favors one.
He's part-time great uncle and part-time horrible uncle. 50-50 split. Go watch that episode. That was fun.
I'm just a neutral uncle. I'm the same to all my nieces.
Same. Azula.
Oh yeah, so Azula, blue fire. That alone would probably be enough to rank her pretty high, but she is the way that Kuvira has mastered metal bending. I think is similar to how Azula has mastered lightning bending. Like she uses lightning bending in a way that no one else uses it. She can make projectiles. She can make like balls of it. She can do it without doing the whole conjuring thing. She can do it with just a flick of her wrist. I would say she's the best lightning bender, and she's a freaking prodigy at firebending.
No argument here. And the extra element of lightning bending that suits her so well is just the danger element, and that's such a good fit to her character that she manages it so in a way that feels careless, but is just supremely talented and rehearsed. Number 14, still don't know how to pronounce his name, Atuat, and that's the waterbender, right?
Yeah, the waterbender from the Shadow of Kyoshi novel, who taught Kyoshi. And this is the interesting thing about this list, is that in a fight, she will probably lose to really any bender.
Any offensive bender.
Yeah, because Atuat, being raised in the Northern Water Tribe, was not taught how to use waterbending to fight. She was taught to use it how to heal. But she is like far more powerful than most of the other men who were learning how to fight. She can keep people from the brink of death just by like freezing their I don't know, degeneration or
She
something
invented
to that effect.
cryo bending, Chris. She's a
Yeah,
cryotherapist.
yeah,
Also, I did not mention that was number 4 from our water bending list, and yeah, I mean, that's such a there again, it's such a unique talent or a unique mastery of the talent that probably was not. I want to say like wasn't taught, but like there's some element of that that was just out of her person. There's not other healers that we see that
yeah,
can do that.
yeah,
Somehow in there, she found and discovered this abilities just on her own or innately, and that's awesome.
yeah. She definitely took healing to a level that I wouldn't say has ever been um, really duplicated.
Not
Like,
that we've seen, at least.
like, um, like Kyoshi is a great waterbender, but she doesn't necessarily use that to like heal. Like she uses that, she uses that ability to kill people or kill that specific person.
Like you do.
Yeah. So yeah, so Ottawa, really great. Number 13 is Monk Kel Song, who was number 4 amongst the monks. I'm sorry, amongst
Amongst.
number number 4 from the Airbenders. Kel Song, just his what was his name? The Walking Typhoon, the Living Typhoon, something like that. That alone puts in perspective just how freaking powerful he is.
And I don't know. That's like he's conjuring up storms, like he's an airbender, but he's literally conjuring up storms. That might not qualify as its own element of sub bending, but like he's literally manipulating the whole atmosphere
Yeah,
in large enough scale to sink ships. Uh,
yeah,
Not just creative, also very cool.
yeah.
Number 12, Lauge, who is an earthbender slash, I'm going to say, random kind of healer in his own right. His,
Yeah, that's it's funny when you think about it that way.
but
It's
he
funny,
can't do
yeah.
his to
All
other people, I don't think, right? Like he's kind of, Atuat is healing others, but Lauge is
uh
just sort of keeping his own elemental form in place, intact.
it's funny because technically speaking, each element except for air has some type of healing factor to it. Water, of course, has healing. Can heal the body and also heal things spiritually, whether that's dark spirits or even people to a certain extent. And firebending can also heal spiritually to a certain sense. Like there's a scene where Korra gets her memory knocked out of her, and the fire sages are like brushing over with fire. There's a healing element there, and then yeah, earthbending. There's self healing of just like break yourself down, then build yourself back up. Like that is. Maybe I didn't give him enough credit when we did this list because that's a freaking. What was he ranked? Number
That's pretty
3.
cool.
Okay,
He's the third
yeah,
ranked earthbender. That's pretty
yeah,
sick. And then also like that's not that all these other people don't have great skills, but you're also talking about a wildly practiced assassin too, right? Like it's not a skill 1 and 2, it's like 1 and 1A in terms of his abilities.
yeah. I
So,
think the only thing that I brought him down because when I think about that ability that he came up with to somehow does he even do it? Because your body isn't necessarily Earth, but he does it somehow. It's an earthbending technique.
is he old
Um,
enough that we could see him in a Yang Chen book? Because that would be fun. Little pop
I
in.
would. I think they were saying that he's like 500 years old,
So
somewhere around
that
there.
would be
So,
an amazing
ooh,
if FCE just
well,
keeps writing books farther back and you just get
don't.
little like Stan Lee cameos of Lauge assassinating somebody in the news.
Yeah, don't get my hopes up, Sean. If they drop a Lauga reference or a cameo in this, that would excite me if she comes
That'd be
across
amazing.
him.
But I really want it to be in passing, like somebody's reading a newspaper or whatever their equivalent of is
Uh,
another high up official assassinated, like And in your head, you're like,
Yeah,
that's him.
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not enough credit, but I mean, they're again, it's easy to say, and it's much harder to figure out. Like, okay, who you're replacing him with.
Also, his earthbending. We see him do really great earthbending, but there's not as much of it. It's more so to be like evasive and stuff, which is still great. Like his dust stepping was really great as well. And when you think about the fight scene of him in that little town they're in, he was pretty much untouchable. There could be a case maybe for him to be a little higher, maybe even up to 10 or so, but we won't make that change now because we already made this
It's
list.
too late. It's scientifically set in stone.
Yeah. All right. Number 11. Don't know if this will make people happy or not, but it is Iroh, who comes in number 11. He was number 3 in fire bending. When it comes to Iroh, he is, just real quick volume check, he is really, he's kind of like the master of the different sub elements of fire bending. It's really great at lightning bending. He's just a great firebender in general, and he came up with his own method of redirecting lightning, so that's really huge. Yeah, arrows. It's so funny. We had Azula. Yeah, that still makes sense. I'm still fine with
No,
that.
I think it still works. It's maybe like a slight sticker shock to see Iroh this low.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Arrow could take Azula in a fight. Yeah, I'm good.
I mean, I think so. Just redirecting, and wisdom too, right? Like we gave Laogag credit for existing forever. I mean, I'm looking, and there again, it's a little sticker shock, but I think it's the right place for Iroh. And Chris, after last episode that we recorded, everybody hates Iroh now anyway, so nobody's gonna be offended. We converted them. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
man.
Number 10 is our third ranked Airbender. His name is Aang, and this is tough, Chris. When I talk about names moving up and moving down, I was a little surprised that he got this high, actually, right? Because, but he's. I think what we're attributing that to in our Airbender episode is he just has such immense. He's like a hands-on evil genius of airbending. So it's not massive things. It's crafty, small, immediate, quick thinking things that I don't know that you see replicated in such a creative way by a lot of other benders.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this a little bit more with the character coming up, but he does fully embody the element of air and that freedom that comes with it. The one thing I really love about him is that while it might be a little bit of bad writing, that he doesn't really change that much. It could be argued that there's strong writing there because he was so ingrained in his convictions of being an air nomad that he would not take a life, except for that buzzer wasp. RIP to that buzzer wasp
He
that
was just
was
in the wrong place on the wrong day, man.
He wouldn't change, and he wouldn't succumb to killing anybody. And we've seen that affect other airbenders, like Hillsong. Like Hillsong was so wrecked by the things he's done, his airbending was a fraction of what it was in his prime.
And there again, I think you said it best when it's just the Aang like embodies airbending. Like if you told me that later on in life, slight foreshadowing, that like the Aang was the first airbender to learn how to fly or could just sustain himself up there forever and ever and ever and ever. It just like he feels like the quintessential airbender.
Yeah. He probably could, but he's the Avatar, and his sole attachment is to the world, to the Earth.
Afraid so. It's gonna break the rule. Break rule number 1 of flybenders.
Gotta detach yourself. Let go of those earthly tethers. Become the wind, and not become air. Anyway, number 9 is Ozai, who is ranked number 2 amongst all the firebenders. Ozai, the big bad of Avatar. He is. He is the epitome of all powerful bad guy.
He went hand to hand with the Avatar.
It's more than just a word.
Traded blows with the Avatar in the Avatar state. You know, I don't know how much more like demonstrable proof that you need. It's just I don't know. It's kind of it's like blunt weapon force, but it's just the biggest, strongest blunt weapon force maybe on the list.
He probably had the strongest lightning bending I've seen, and especially the way that he does the double finger,
Pew pew.
double gun, double pistol, maybe lightning bending.
Yeah, there's. I mean, we don't have just a whole lot to go on from him, but what's there is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Number 8, we have Yakone, who is our first bloodbender, and not the first bloodbender, but our first bloodbender. And you know, we kind of referenced it earlier a little bit. Who were we talking about when we were talking about teaching? Oh, Tenzin. You know, there again, it's not that he's being taught how to bloodbend. He's having to stumble on and then hone this himself, and then to be able to pass it on to his children, and for him to be able to teach them so well that then they can do it without the help of the moon, the full moon. And so, you know, it's like he's developing his own branch of science, even though he didn't necessarily invent the form itself. And obviously, he was a very good bloodbender. And
yeah, good enough to take out a room that included Aang and Toph in it and other benders, like, and he just got away.
And there again, I'm sure he had. We don't see him as much, but I'm sure he was a stellar waterbender too, just given the context of where he wound up. So not just bloodbending.
Yeah,
and he was our third waterbender.
Yes, third ranked waterbender. Number 7 is Jianju, who's the number 2 ranked earthbender. Jianju, the grave digger. He was able to go, toe to toe with Kyoshi, and also his bending was enough to withstand the Avatar state. That's crazy.
We don't get the unique bending forms or styles here, and it's mostly just directed toward violence. But you're talking about a guy who's been around for a really long time. Like, he's clearly old. He's still doing it at peak high level, and at that age, toe to toe with the Avatar. And it essentially took another, powerful bender / spirit being to help him be brought down. Despite, I don't know how old he is, but he's lived through, a full Avatar.
It would have been
at a grown
I think
age.
he would have been 50 if he was around Avatar Korra's age. Korra died at 33. That means Kyoshi was born when Korra died, and Kyoshi's about 17 at the time of the Kyoshi novel, so that would make him about around late 40s or early 50s. Just say 50.
So we don't necessarily have tons of evidence about the innate, about having some excessively crafty or creative style to him, but what's there is so good and so successful. Number 6, I have our number 2 airbender, and that is Zahir. And there again, we're talking about Aang. We're talking about the almost perfect embodiment of an airbender. Well, Zahir's there. He masters it. He detaches from the world. He himself is not literally an air nomad, but like he becomes the wind. He embodies airbending in its most pure form, and that's on top of the fact that he also is just a pretty good airbender, combatively. You don't necessarily see him use it for lots of other creative or interesting purposes, but I think flight alone is enough to work your way up pretty high this list.
Yeah, and his flight, it's really good flight. It's fast. It's not just floating. He
looks like he's on a jetpack, right? He's not just floating better than Aang. He's propelled.
Aang's glider, if I had to guess, can only go about the third of the speed that Zahir can fly. Maybe half.
I mean, I was just going to wildly guess half, but the idea there too is then he's also still in a glider where it feels like Zahir could turn a tight corner if he needed to. You know what I mean? It looks like he's in control of a jetpack. Yeah. and have his hands free and everything. So that's incredible.
Like
Peak.
that moment was crazy.
Beautiful
Like I
moment.
remember being like, "Oh, they got him. He's cornered." He says his quote, and I honestly didn't see it coming until no, if I I'm just reaching back into my memory banks of watching the episode for the first time. I probably guessed that he jumped off and was going to land on like an airship or something. That he hid right there just in case, whatever, because he's always like 10 steps ahead of people.
Piece of
No, he just
construction
freaking
equipment down
floated.
there, probably. A crane.
Yeah, he just floated there with Korra on his back. He just takes the unconscious
Yeah.
Korra.
Yeah, he's also carrying another person. It's not like he's first time in it and kind of wobbling. Like, no, he's got a whole grown human on his back.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, and this was a good one because here I think I had a little lower originally in our conversations. But yeah, you convinced me to take a little higher.
We talked ourselves
So
into it.
that brings us to number 5, which is Avatar Yang Chen, specifically her heir. Um, Avatar Yang Chen is. It's funny. She's the only Avatar on this list. No, I'm sorry. Aang is right there, number 10. We just talked about Aang. Avatar Yang Chen.
Well, it makes sense we have
Air,
fewer airbenders to choose from overall, so the 2 air
yeah.
avatars. That makes sense.
Yang Chen, amazing airbender. She also can do the choke someone out with their own air type of deal, but not kill them type of stuff. Like years ago, before Zahir ever did it, and just one of the most powerful airbenders ever. And she uses the element like so seamlessly. I can think of other things
Her
to go
range of
off
how
of.
she uses it is so big. Like offense, defense, stealth,
Yeah,
interrogation. Like she has made it a tool at her disposal for any task.
I do really love Yang Chen. She is so different in these books. Like she comes off in the show that's like the wisest person ever, and rightfully so. But like we see a Yang Chen in these books who's just like, I'm just over humanity almost.
People
Like
suck.
she just feels like almost like Doctor Manhattan from Watchmen. There's a specific line in Watchmen where Doctor Manhattan. I got to look it up. Sorry for this detour. Um, I'm sure I'll find it. But Doctor Manhattan is like a fifth dimensional being who knows everything, sees everything that's going to happen to himself, and he's just like surrounded by humans. And I mean, he used to be human himself, but he has one quote. He says like, "I'm tired of these humans," and they're wait, I'm gonna find it. He says, "I feel like this is Yang Chen. I am tired of Earth, these people. I'm tired of being caught in the tangle of their lives." Like that is kind of where Yang Chen is at right now,
It's his polite way of saying he's sick of your shit.
pretty much.
Um, but now you're just making me more excited to jump into the book. Getting stoked. Number 4, we have Iroh 2. He was our top ranked firebender. And we won't repeat everything we said, but we remained so blown away by his
Go watch the highlight
admittedly,
reel.
yeah, just go watch that clip. But his admittedly small sample size of incredulous levels of firebending competence, all jam packed into a few short seconds. And so we're just kind of projecting the idea that, like, yeah, he did that in a couple seconds, kind of on not a whim, but not like he had a ton of preparatory time or that we were seeing
Yeah.
his sort of other academic types of firebending. Like, no, that was just his reactionary fighting. And so we're going to assume that he's got some other incredible firebending skills as well. Go watch that clip. That's a great clip.
Number 3 is Tarlock, who came in number 2 in our list of waterbenders. Tarlock, I initially had him a little higher in this list. He is the second greatest bloodbender. He was able to bloodbend a room filled with some of the strongest benders in the world of Lin Beifong, Tenzin, Mako, Bolin. He was able to get away. And his waterbending was also really, really great. He went toe to toe with Korra until she bust out more than just waterbending element. When it came to like water versus water, though, they were going at each other. It was a freaking great fight. So Tarlock coming really high at number 3.
It's not that it's wrong. I'm glad you moved him down. I think he ended where he needed to end, but that's one of those that just it surprises you. But then the more that you think about it, it feels good. It feels appropriate. Dude could have made a great. Well, I guess he eventually sort of did, but would have made a great just villain in his own right on his own. Number 2, we've got our top-ranked Earthbender, and that is Toph. And just like last episode where I couldn't think of the right word, but I keep wanting to say, like, when it comes to bending, Toph has the luxury of being blind, and that's not the right phrase. But what I mean is that, like, she's thrust into this context that most other Earthbenders are not, but in a way that has led to her becoming almost like an extra-dimensionally skilled Earthbender and forced to master her craft in a different way. And on top of that, literally invented a new kind of bending, or founded a new kind of bending that becomes pivotal through the rest of the show. Not something that you just see once or twice, but it becomes pivotal to the narrative of the rest of the show. Long lifespan, that helps too, right? Like, she's got a great range of time that she's having an impact and continuing to adapt and survive. Toph's amazing.
Yeah, created pretty much 3 subsets. This statement alone is crazy. She created 3 subsets of a bending element. She created metal bending, seismic sense, and truth saying. Like that's more than taking the elements to the next level. And then metal bending, like you mentioned, became pretty much an element in of itself. Like, it changed whole freaking cities, multiple cities. It was that important of a change. Changed manufacturing, I'm sure.
And I always forget about the truth seeing. I kind of lump that in, like, truth seeing and seismic sense, like you're still sort of reading vibrations.
It's just that some people can't do both. In fact,
yeah,
no one can do.
But there again, yeah, she's the only person that can do both. Noted.
Yeah.
So I lump them together a little bit, but that's still. It's not something that you would even associate with earthbending until you sit and ponder, like, oh, she's literally reading vibrations through the earth. But it feels like such an important, prominent leap for her character that you wouldn't expect. It's such a good, unexpected surprise. And again, I'm usually pretty bad about forgetting all about it, that she was the first to do that, at least that we have a canon record of.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to do some honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. We need to do honorable mentions, Shawn. In fact, I changed up the honorable mentions just so.
There's so many people on this list, Chris.
You want me to go just 25 through 21?
You do as many as you want. I'm here for it, man.
All right. You know what? I'll start off just so we can talk about these people, because they're really great people. Really great benders. Katara would have been number... Can't count. Number 28. Katara, number 28. Number 27 would have been Minghua. Number 20... Oh, crap, I can't count. Sorry. 29, Katara. 28, Minghua. 27, Ty Lee. 26, Jinora. Was Jinora... I could make a case for being higher. She uses so many subsets.
Just to clarify, too, Jinora's 28. Your numbering's wrong there.
Oh,
that's
you're
fine.
Probably right.
So, yeah,
Jinora. You're right. Dang it, Shawn. So Katara would have been like 30 or something.
Yeah, we're doing top 30 today.
Yeah,
why not?
Right. Yeah, Schnorr's really great because Schnorr uses like subsets of airbending, and she really also embodies the element of air. Combustion Man, 27, Lin Beifong, 26, Suyin Beifong, 25. And so this one hurt me here. Talked about this one before. Me and you, Shawn, off camera, whatever,
Hmm?
talking. That this list is very unbiased, I would say, because one of my favorite characters, who I think is one of the most powerful people in the whole universe, Korra, did not make the list in any of the elements.
But she has such
So,
nice, well-rounded mastery of
yeah,
everything but
yeah,
airbending.
that's true. Yeah.
Um, that'd be an interesting separate conversation of just like avatars with the best range across all four, or whatever, however you'd want to word that. But like her and Kyoshi just immediately come to mind as having that the using and having most of the full range of bending in the best possible way.
Mm.
But in this case, yeah, sorry, Korra. No offense.
Yeah. Yeah, Korra specifically her water bending would have came in at 24. And then Kyoshi would have came in, weirdly enough, at water bending at 23. Yoon at 22. Tagaka, the Pirate Queen, at 21. So those are the honorable mentions.
I
And
would,
I mean that very honorably so.
and I don't think you're giving Kyoshi's Earth enough credit. I would still put her Earth above her water. I know she did, impressive things. But like, we're still talking about her calling card being like she separated an island. The way in the fight against Tagaka, the Pirate Queen, like at her
I mean, she was.
earliest raw stages, like like from the sheer power kind of. Who's a good other?
Yeah, but she was like using the Avatar state. And I mean, she definitely used Avatar state to make the island. And so I didn't want to include or consider that. The versus Tagaka, I'm pretty sure she was using the Avatar state. It made it seem like she was using
Like
something similar,
fringy.
some type of
I
somewhere around there. And
it
her
kills me
earthbending
to
was
have
like
not her
so
original element on there
blocky.
because in my mind there's no way without being like without the avatar state causing that connection or allowing it to be possible, there's no way in my mind that avatars would even be able to bend those other elements. Like it kills me to have her out of her actual element on there because that's tied to the avatar or being the avatar instead of being a specific type of bender.
Yeah.
Like she's earthbender. But anyway, I see your point in terms of the power of her mastery of waterbending regardless.
She was able to freeze someone's heart, Shawn.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Or lungs. I think it might have been lungs. Yeah, it was whatever. They're close to each
I
other.
think lungs. She just froze a general area. It wasn't very surgical.
Yeah.
Chris, get us up to number
Yeah.
one. Take us away with our
Number
top.
one. To no one's surprise, I'm sure, the number one vendor is Amon. We did a whole video, a whole episode of just simply asking the question, can anyone defeat Amon? So that says a lot. Not only is Amon the greatest bloodbender by a mile, like Tarlock, amazing bloodbender, and Amon took him down in a second. So Mon's an amazing bloodbender, but not only is he a really great bloodbender of like moving people, he can get in, use bloodbending, and use his knowledge of chi to block chi paths with bloodbending to take away your bending. That is some next level type of stuff.
That is surgical, man. That's hyper.
Yeah,
That's not just
yeah,
bloodbending an arm like a puppeteer. Like that's performing surgery with bloodbending, and
yeah.
and that's not to discredit again his his standard waterbending abilities. Um, again, given the context in which he grew up, I mean, offensive certainly just for like general survival. Um, yeah, so bloodbending obviously is what puts it well over the top, but even without that, I'm sure
Yeah,
he would be a moderately formidable waterbender.
his waterbending skills seem to be pretty good. I'll probably put Tarlock's waterbending skills and probably Forrest as well above his.
You know,
But he was able to like make a freaking 10 story, somewhere around there, funnel when he almost drowned
We also
in
that's
the
it's small sample size,
river.
right? For most of what we see him,
Yeah.
he's not using waterbending. So you just not that we have to do that to the best
Yeah.
of our ability with other characters, but
Yes.
dude's powerful waterbender. That's all it boils down to. Chris, that was fun. It was fun to combine all the lists. Thanks for doing the legwork. Much appreciated. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments where we did not err because we did science, but where you think that we should have done things differently. Looking forward to seeing your comments. My name's Shawn Shaler. That's Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. This has been Avatar: The Last Podcasters. I'll put all the details down in the description, and we'll talk to you next time. See you later. I was just asking myself, are we going to make it through a whole 20 seconds silently? Never.